The jungle wasn't marked on any human map. Thick green vines curled around red bark trees, glowing softly in the low light of the twin suns. Evan Walsh wasn't supposed to land here. His ship had taken a hit during a skirmish near the outer rim. The control system failed, and gravity did the rest. When he opened his eyes, he was on a strange alien world with no signal, no crew, and barely enough supplies to survive a week. But he was alive, and that meant something. He checked the damage to the ship. Beyond repair, without parts. No way to send a distress beacon either. Still, he wasn't dead. So he did what humans do best, he got moving. The jungle was humid, but alive with noise and light. Strange birds with silver feathers circled overhead. The air smelled sweet but wrong. He kept his weapon close, not knowing what could be out there. Then he heard it, a sharp cry, not a beast, not an animal. It was pain, a voice, a girl's voice. He didn't think. He ran, through branches and thorns, over roots and shallow streams. Then he saw her. She was collapsed near a glowing blue flower, blood dripping from a wound on her leg. Her skin was a deep cobalt blue, and her hair shone bright violet. She had long ears, sharp eyes, and wore armor made of bone and leaf. She looked up at him with fear and fury. He didn't move. She tried to stand but collapsed again. Evan raised both hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly. "You're bleeding." "Let me help," she hissed at him. Her teeth were sharp. But she didn't run. He kneeled beside her and opened his kit. She watched every move, eyes glowing faintly. He wrapped her leg and injected a low-dose human nanogel. Her breathing calmed. Her eyes began to close. "You'll be okay," he whispered. Then she bit him. It wasn't a gentle bite. Her teeth sank into his hand like a wild animal. He pulled back in shock, but she didn't attack again. She looked dazed, confused, but no longer afraid. Her eyes softened as she whispered something in her language and fainted in his arms. Blood dripped from his hand, but Evan didn't feel angry. He felt something else. Something pulling at his instincts. He carried her back to a shallow cave nearby and watched over her as she slept. That night, fires lit the sky. Evan saw alien ships cutting through the clouds. Explosions rocked the forest. Someone was fighting nearby. But it wasn't human ships. It was a tribal war, alien clans, maybe. The girl groaned in her sleep, her body trembling. When she woke, the next morning, she looked at Evan with wide eyes. "You helped me," she said slowly, her words broken but clear. "You're not from here." He nodded, unsure of what she would do next. She stood, limping but strong. Then she did something strange. She knelt before him, one hand pressed to her chest, the other extended toward him. "You are Keyleth," she said firmly. "Chosen." Evan didn't know what that meant, but it didn't sound like trouble. She motioned for him to follow her. Despite the pain in his hand and the exhaustion in his limbs, he followed. She led him through thick brush, past glowing trees, until they reached a cliff overlooking a vast valley. There, in the center of the valley, was a village made of stone and metal. Strange banners flew above the roofs. Dozens of blue-skinned aliens gathered, watching them. The girl spoke to the elders in her native tongue. There was shouting, disbelief, even laughter. But when she raised his wounded hand and showed them the bite mark, the crowd fell silent. One by one, they knelt. The girl turned to him and said it again. "You are Keyleth. You saved the blood of Orla. You are our leader now." Evan stared at them in disbelief. He had just wanted to survive. Now an alien tribe knelt before him like he was some kind of legend. He didn't understand their customs, their rules, or their language well enough. But the look in the girl's eyes was clear. Trust, loyalty, and maybe something else he couldn't name yet. The forest around them whispered with the wind, and somewhere deeper in the jungle, something dark stirred. *, the tribe moved like water. Fast and silent, Evan stood in the center of this strange stone village, surrounded by warriors and elders who stared at him with quiet respect. The girl, Orla, stayed close to his side. She no longer looked hurt or afraid. Instead, she walked with pride, her chin high, her steps strong. Wherever she led him, others stepped aside. Her voice had weight here. And her bite, it seemed, meant more than Evan ever guessed. A tall male stepped forward. His chest was covered in scars, his arms thick with muscle. His eyes burned with distrust as he looked at Evan. Orla spoke to him quickly in her language. Evan couldn't understand, but the way her voice rose and her hands moved showed urgency. The male snorted and turned away. Evan watched his back disappear. Into the crowd, Orla looked at Evan and sighed. "That was Kareth," she said slowly. "He was our leader. You must be careful." Evan frowned. "I don't want to take anyone's place. I just helped you." Orla shook her head. "You helped the blood of the High Hunt. That changes everything." She pointed to his hand where the bite mark still throbbed. "The mark means bond. You are now part of the tribe." She hesitated, then added softly, "You are more than part. You are Alpha." Evan wanted to argue. He wasn't ready to lead anyone, let alone a group of aliens who spoke in half-broken words and followed blood rituals, but something in him had changed since the crash. He had seen war, served as a combat medic, and survived worse than this. Maybe not stranger, but definitely worse. He looked out at the village and saw how the people watched him. Not with fear, not with anger, with hope. That scared him more than any weapon. Still, he nodded slowly. "Then I need to learn. Teach me your ways." Orla's eyes widened, then softened. "You learn fast. That is good. We do not have much time." She led him to a stone circle near the center of the village. There, symbols were carved deep into the ground. She explained they were the ways of the hunt, the heart of their people. A trial of survival, strength, and sacrifice. Each leader had faced the hunt. Now it was Evan's turn. He didn't get to say no. Orla placed a necklace of bone around his neck. "At dawn, the test begins. You will not be alone. I will guide you from the shadows." Evan asked her what the trial involved, but she only said, "You will face what the forest sends. If you return, the tribe is yours." That night, Evan sat near a fire, alone. The forest beyond the village whispered with sound. He could feel eyes watching. Kareth hadn't been seen again. That wasn't a good sign. He didn't trust the man. And from Orla's words, he suspected Kareth didn't trust him either. Still, he didn't sleep. Not much. His hand ached where the bite still pulsed like a memory. By morning, the village had gathered. The twin suns rose behind thick mist. Evan stood shirtless, his wounds clean, his mind sharp. Orla handed him a spear made of bone and crystal. "Do not lose this. It is your voice in the forest." Evan took it and stepped into the jungle. Behind him, drums began to beat. Each step forward felt heavier than the last. The trees closed in around him like they had thoughts of their own. But he pressed on, for the tribe. For Orla, for himself. Hours passed. He tracked strange prints. He dodged traps made of vines and stones. Then he found it a creature with 6 legs, eyes like mirrors, and a mouth full of clicking teeth. It charged before he could think. Evan rolled, speared upward, and struck its chest. The creature shrieked and thrashed. He held on, not as a soldier, but as something new. Something wild. The fight ended with Evan covered in blood and breathless, but alive. The jungle didn't get him. Not yet. He dragged the creature back, half carrying, half pulling. When the village saw him return, gasps filled the air. Orla ran to him, touching his shoulder. "You faced the beast of shadows," she whispered. "No one has killed one alone. In many cycles." Evan dropped to his knees. He looked at her, bloody and tired. Then I guess I'm alpha now. The people chanted a word he didn't know, but he could feel what it meant in his bones. Leader, warrior, chosen. But someone wasn't chanting at all. Evan stood tall, blood drying on his skin as the tribe circled around him. The dead beast at his feet was still steaming, its black blood staining the sacred ground. The drums beat louder now, the chants grew deeper. Arla raised his arm, and the people roared. Evan didn't understand all their words, but the emotion was clear: victory, strength, belonging. But not all faces shared the joy. In the shadows, Kareth watched silently, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. The former leader had not spoken since Evan's return from the trial. Orla stayed by Evan's side. She dressed his wounds with leaves soaked in glowing gel. Her touch was gentle, her eyes focused. "They accept you," she said softly. "You fought the shadow beast and returned. No one questions you right now." Evan looked at the crowd, then back at her. "But Kareth does." She nodded once. "He is proud, dangerous, and angry. He sees you as a challenge, not a savior." Evan sighed. He hadn't asked for any of this. "Will he try to fight me?" Orla hesitated. "He already plans it." The sun fell behind the trees, and fires lit the village paths. Evan tried to rest, but sleep came in short bursts. At midnight, Orla entered his hut with a bone knife and a worried look. "It begins," she whispered. "Kareth has gathered warriors. Not all stand with you." Evan stood quickly, his muscles still sore. "What about the elders?" Orla's voice was tense. "They remain silent. They wait to see who wins." He understood then. This wasn't about law, it was survival. He had to fight to keep his place. Orla led him through a secret path behind the huts. They moved in silence, stepping over roots and between ancient stones. In a small clearing surrounded by statues, Kareth waited. He wore black bone armor and carried a double-bladed staff. 5 warriors stood behind him, all painted with blood symbols. Evan had no armor, no team, just the bone spear he had earned. But he didn't flinch. He stepped forward and faced Kareth with steady eyes. "You want my place?" he asked. "Come and take it." The warriors backed away. This wasn't a brawl, it was a ritual. One fight, one outcome. Kareth didn't speak. He lunged without warning. The staff spun fast, striking like lightning. Evan dodged, barely, then countered with a thrust of his spear. Wood cracked against bone. Sparks flew from the crystal tip. Kareth was fast, trained, and filled with rage. But Evan fought with clarity. He had learned to stay alive in a dozen war zones. This was no different. Survive, endure, strike back. Kareth swung wide, and Evan ducked. He rolled to the side and drove his spear forward, catching Kareth in the side. The older warrior grunted and fell back, but didn't stop. His next blow slammed into Evan's shoulder, sending him to the dirt. Pain exploded in his arm. Arla shouted, but Evan couldn't hear her words. He saw only Kareth coming again, face twisted, eyes wild. Evan spun on one knee and struck upward. The spear caught Kareth's leg, and the man fell hard. Evan didn't rise, he waited. Kareth groaned, tried to stand, but Evan grabbed his arm and twisted him into the ground. The spear pressed against Kareth's throat. The jungle held its breath. The warriors stepped forward, but Orla raised her hand. "It is over," she said. "By blood and bone, the rite is complete." Evan looked into Kareth's eyes. The older man didn't beg. He only stared. Evan stood and lowered his weapon. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. "But I won't run from one either." The warriors helped Kareth up. None spoke. Arla approached Evan, her expression proud. "You showed strength and mercy. That is what our people remember." Evan nodded, breathing hard. His shoulder throbbed, his hand trembled, but he was still standing. "Is it done?" he asked. "For now," she answered. "You are no longer questioned." That night, the village honored him with fire and song. Food was placed before him. Children watched him with wide eyes. And the elders bowed their heads as he passed. Still, he couldn't relax. The tribe accepted him, but something deeper stirred. In the forest, a tension he couldn't name. Arla noticed it too. As the music faded, she sat beside him. "There's more," she whispered. "Something is coming. The sky spirits return soon. They never forget what we take from them." Evan didn't understand. Who are they? She looked toward the stars. The ones who hunt with fire from the sky. They see you as a threat now. They saw you defeat the beast. They will come to take your blood. The jungle was silent. Too silent. Evan stood at the edge of the village, watching the sky turn silver. Arla stood beside him, her hand on the hilt of her bone dagger. The people behind them whispered nervously, their eyes fixed on the stars. A strange hum filled the air, low and deep, like a growl from the sky. Then, a streak of fire tore through the clouds. Another ship. Sleek, black, and shaped like a claw. It didn't crash, it landed with purpose, with control. It wasn't the first time these ships had come. Orla's voice was quiet. Sky spirits. They used to visit once a cycle. Now they come more often. Evan frowned. They don't look like spirits, she nodded. They are not. That is what we call them. But they are hunters, slavers. They take our people. They see our blood as power. Evan's eyes narrowed. Why haven't you fought them off? Arla's expression turned hard. We tried. We died. They have machines, weapons, and now, because of you, they will come with more. Before Evan could reply, a blast shook the trees. A metal voice echoed from the landing site. A message, not in the alien tongue, but in clean, harsh galactic standard. Surrender the one marked by the hunt. Human, you do not belong here. We claim what is ours. Resist, and we will burn this place. Evan stepped forward, his jaw tight. They mean me. Orla grabbed his arm. They always take our strongest. You defeated the beast. You wear my mark. They will not stop until they bleed you dry. Evan turned to the crowd. We don't have to let them win. You saw me fight. You know what I can do, but I need your trust. The people murmured. Some looked away. Fear gripped them. Kareth, bruised but standing, stepped forward. The Sky Ones killed my father. They burned my brother's bones. But this one, he pointed to Evan, he made me kneel. I say we fight beside him. The crowd stilled. Then slowly heads began to nod. Spears rose in the air. The people had chosen again. The tribe moved quickly. Hunters placed traps around the village. Arla showed Evan old hiding tunnels carved beneath the ground. Children were taken deep into the caves. Warriors painted their skin with war symbols. Evan checked his rifle still half charged. It wouldn't last through a full assault. Do you have anything stronger? He asked. Arla nodded. We have something old. She took him to a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside lay a crate, made of rusted steel, human steel. Evan blinked. Where did you get this? Orla touched the crate gently. A human ship crashed here many cycles ago. The sky spirits feared its fire, so they buried it. We took what we could. Inside, he found 2 EMP grenades, a compact railgun with 1 power cell, and a rusted exo-arm module. This will help, he said. Barely. He strapped the gear on and stepped outside. The sky was darker now. The hum returned, louder. They were coming. The first wave came from the trees, drones with sharp wings and glowing red eyes. They scanned the area, searching for heat. Evan threw a rock away from the cave entrance. One drone followed the sound and exploded on a trap. The blast sent 2 others into a spin. Then the real attackers came. Tall figures in black armor, their faces hidden behind bone-white masks. One raised a plasma rifle. Evan fired first. The railgun roared. The masked warrior fell in 2 pieces. Orla led her warriors into the trees, striking fast and retreating faster. They used the land like it was part of them. Evan took position at the high ridge, covering them from above. His shots were few, but each one dropped a target. The air smelled like ash and blood. Screams echoed through the night. Still they came. For every one they dropped, 2 more arrived. Then the mothership hovered above the jungle, its searchlights cutting through the smoke. A deep voice boomed again. Enough. Send us the marked one, or watch your tribe die. Evan's heart pounded. He looked down at the children hiding in the tunnels. He looked at Orla, blood on her cheek but still fighting. He stood tall and shouted back, "Come and take me." The sky thundered. A beam of light struck the center of the village, vaporizing the old fire pit. Evan was thrown backward. When he opened his eyes, metal boots were already on the ground. A giant armored figure stepped from the light, holding a weapon longer than Evan's body. The final hunter had come. The giant stepped into the shattered village like death itself. His armor was black with red lights pulsing across his arms. The weapon in his hands hummed with power. Every footstep shook the ground. Evan rose slowly, blood dripping from his forehead. Orla ran to his side and helped him stand. The alien warrior didn't speak. He simply raised his arm and pointed the weapon directly at Evan's chest. The tribe froze. Orla stood between them and screamed a word Evan had never heard. The giant paused. His helmet shifted slightly. Then he spoke. "The girl bears the mark. The bond is sealed." His voice was layered, synthetic and cold. Orla didn't flinch. "He saved me. I bit him under bloodfire. The right of claim has been made. He is not just human now. He is ours." The warrior lowered his weapon an inch. Then the experiment succeeded. "You fools have no idea what you've awakened." Evan pushed Orla gently aside and stepped forward. "What are you talking about? What experiments?" The warrior tilted his head. "You are the first to survive it. The bond was meant to be temporary, a test of hybrid loyalty. But the bite activated something dormant. You are no longer just human. You carry the flame of the hunt." Orla's eyes widened. "The hunt flame? That is legend." The warrior turned to her. "Not legend. Weapon. The tribes forgot. We did not. The flame cannot be left alive." He raised the gun again. This time, Evan didn't wait. He dived to the side and rolled behind a fallen pillar. The beam sliced through the air, lighting up the entire hilltop. The tribe scattered. Orla shouted for cover. Kareth leapt from the shadows and drove a spear into the giant's side, but it bounced off the armor. The warrior swatted him away like a fly. Evan reached for his EMP grenade and hurled it. The blast struck the giant square in the chest, short-circuiting the lights on his armor. For the first time, the warrior staggered. Orla charged. Her bone blade struck the weak point under his arm. Sparks flew. He roared and grabbed her by the neck. Evan tackled him from behind, punching with the exo-arm module until the steel plating cracked. The warrior slammed his elbow into Evan's ribs. Something broke, but Evan didn't fall. He gritted his teeth and grabbed the railgun. "Move!" he yelled to Orla. She dropped low. Evan pulled the trigger and fired straight into the exposed joint at the neck. The giant stumbled, weapon dropping from his hand. He fell to one knee. His helmet sparked, flickered, then slid off. The face beneath it was scarred, part machine, part flesh. Red eyes blinked at Evan with hatred. "You are the key," the warrior gasped. "You are the link between blood and flame. You are Alpha Prime." Evan fired again. The blast hit the head directly. The warrior dropped without another word. Silence returned to the jungle. Even the insects stopped their song. Orla knelt beside Evan and checked his wounds. Her hands shook. "You were not just chosen," she whispered. "You were created for this." Somehow they knew. The bite wasn't just a bond, it was a trigger. Evan coughed and sat up. "You said the hunt flame is a legend." Orla nodded. "It was. The stories say the hunt flame comes when our people are broken. It binds strength and mercy. It leads all tribes to one path, war or peace." She looked at him with awe. "You carry that fire now." The elders emerged from the tunnels. Kareth limped forward, bruised but alive. "He has passed the test. No spirit, no beast, no warrior could break him. He's not just Alpha, he is protector." The people chanted. Again, louder this time, but Evan didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man caught in something bigger than himself. "If I carry something they fear," he said slowly, "then more will come." Orla nodded. "Yes, and we must be ready. Your blood is the call. The galaxy will hear it soon." As the sun rose, the tribe began rebuilding what was destroyed. Fires were put out, the injured were treated. The strange calm after battle settled across the village. Orla sat beside Evan and placed her hand over his. "They came for you because they feared what you might become." Evan looked at her. "And what is that?" She smiled softly. "A bridge. Between worlds, between past and future." Evan didn't know what that meant yet, but he knew one thing. He wasn't leaving. Evan stood on the highest stone of the village as the sun touched the treetops. Below him, the tribe moved with purpose. Warriors rebuilt walls. Elders shared stories of the battle. Children no longer hid in caves but played freely in the open. The scent of healing herbs filled the air, yet Evan felt no peace. His body was sore, his ribs ached, his thoughts were louder than ever. Something had changed in him, not just the respect of the tribe, not just the bite. Something deeper. Orla approached, carrying a folded cloth. She held it out gently. Inside was a carved crest made of bone and crystal, shaped like a flame. "The symbol of the hunt flame," she said softly. "It has not been worn in 100 cycles. Now it belongs to you." Evan held it in his hands. It felt warm, alive, like it recognized him. "What happens now?" he asked. Orla stepped beside him, eyes on the horizon. "Now you decide what this power means. War, or unity, survival, or change." The silence broke as a young scout ran. "Into the village, ships," he shouted. 3 of them. In orbit, watching. The elders gathered quickly. Some whispered fear. Others called for weapons. Kareth stepped forward. "They'll send more," he said. "They always do." Evan looked toward the sky, then down at the crest in his hand. "Let them come," he said, "but not just for war." The elders turned to him, uncertain. "What do you mean?" "One asked." Evan stood tall. "We send a message. Not with surrender, with strength. And peace." That night, Evan stood before the tribe. A fire burned in the center of the stone circle. He raised the hunt flame crest for all to see. "You took me in when I was broken. You made me one of your own. And now the galaxy knows I exist. But I will not run. I will not hide. I am not just your Alpha. I am your voice." The people listened in silence. Orla stepped beside him and said, "He speaks for the flame. He leads for us all." The chant began again, louder than ever before. The next day, Evan walked alone into the jungle. At the crash site of the warrior's ship, he activated the emergency signal. A flashing beacon shot into the clouds. The tribe waited in silence. Hours passed. Then, a sleek craft descended slowly. It hovered just above the treetops. No weapons fired. No threats shouted, just silence. A single drone floated down, scanning Evan. A voice came through the drone, calm but firm. "You are the one called Alpha Prime?" Evan nodded. "Yes." I have something to say. He stepped forward, voice steady. You came here to erase me, because I'm something new. Something you didn't control, but I survived. And I won't hide. If you want war, you'll face not just one tribe, but many. If you want peace, then come and speak. But know this, I am not afraid of you. The drone went silent. Then it rose and returned to the ship. The craft hovered for a moment longer. Then it turned and soared into the sky. Gone. For now, the tribe exhaled together. Orla ran to Evan and embraced him. They didn't fight, they listened, she whispered. Evan nodded. It's not over, but it's a beginning. Over the next few days, messengers came from distant tribes. Some on foot, some by glider. All brought the same message. They had heard the voice of the hunt flame. They came to see if the stories were true. Evan greeted each one with respect. He shared food, shared his story. And slowly something began to grow, a gathering of tribes, a council of voices. Alien faces from rival clans sat together for the first time. And in the center, a human, not a king, not a god. Just a man who stood when it mattered. Who healed a girl, was bitten in thanks, and chose to protect instead of conquer. Evan's words spread like fire through the forests and valleys. Some laughed, some feared, but most listened. Because the galaxy had seen power, but never power with kindness. Months passed. The tribes united under one sign, the crust of the hunt flame. Technology was shared. Knowledge flowed between mountains and seas. Old enemies sat beside each other, not in chains but in trust. Evan still trained every day. He hunted with Orla, taught children how to aim, and reminded everyone that strength was not just in muscle, but in mercy. Kareth became head of the warrior caste. Orla became the voice of the council. And Evan remained alpha, not by force, but by choice. One night, as stars filled the sky, Orla asked him, "Do you regret saving me that day?" Evan smiled and looked at his scarred hand where the bite still showed faintly. "No, that day changed." "Everything," she nodded. "You changed everything." He looked at her, then at the peaceful village around them. "No, we did." In the sky, the stars shifted. New ships might come. New challenges would rise. But now, the tribes had a leader. And his name was spoken with both fear and hope across the stars.